A major milestone in Britain, the first coronavirus vaccines being administered as we speak. If you thought surfing was a stretch as an Olympic sport, how about breakdancing? And Bob Dylan sells out. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Wednesday, December 8th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo.
Wait, you said Wednesday? Say Wednesday? No, today's Tuesday. Right?
Is today Tuesday? You are. Oy vey.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
Carlo.
God. It's all right. Jill, it's okay. We keep going. We keep going here. It's all good. Look,
We're not
quick.
even going to. That's how you know this is a real podcast. We are not even going to stop and edit that out and redo it.
I
But do
know.
I lose all credibility? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Jill, before we start, a very quick correction. We said yesterday that Kamala Harris would be the first vice president of color. That's actually not true. She will be the first female, Black, and Asian VP, but she will not be the first of vice president of color. That distinction belongs to Herbert Hoover's vice president, Charles Curtis, who was Native American. So that's just a little more you know there from your friends at Cheddar.
Okay.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either. Today, by the way, a historic day. It is the beginning of what's almost certain to be the largest mass vaccination drive in human history. Healthcare workers in the UK have started inoculating the first patients with Pfizer's approved coronavirus vaccine. A 90-year-old woman named Margaret Keenan became the first person to get the first of 2 shots administered by May Parsons of Britain's NHS. Keenan wore a blue Merry Christmas t-shirt, rolled up her sleeve, and got the shot right in front of members of the media. And she said she felt so privileged to be the first. Quote, "I can finally look forward to spending time with my family and friends in the new year after being on my own for most of the year." Carlo, I gotta say, I'm kind of tearing up.
I had a little lump in my throat when I saw that picture come across the wires this morning, Jill. It's I'm going to link to it in the newsletter. It's really it's cute. It's just it really is a moment. Let's just let's just take a minute. This is incredible. It wasn't even a year ago that we were talking about this mysterious virus in China, and now people are getting vaccines for it. It's incredible. But of course,
and just really quickly before you go into just the logistics and stuff, what it means. Forget the science breakthroughs and forget the logistics. But as she articulated, what it means for her is her life back. Right? It's the opportunity to see her friends, to see her family, to not be in isolation. I mean, that's what this virus has done to us.
Totally.
And that's if that's what it did and you didn't get sick from it, you're lucky. So the fact that we've got something now, hopefully we can get it out there quick.
Yeah, well said, Jill. But yeah, you're right. Now comes the hard part. The logistical challenge involved in vaccinating billions of people. This is going to be the most difficult thing I think we've seen in this world since World War II. This is going to include major tests for the pharmaceutical industry, the shipping industry, trucking, air cargo industries. I read from an airplane lobbyist that it would take 8,000 Boeing 747s to deliver just a single dose of a vaccine to all 7.8 billion people on Earth. That's sort of like a meaningless statistic because that's just like not really how it works. But it just shows you the logistical challenges involved. Obviously, you don't need to actually vaccinate 7.8 billion people because we'd get herd immunity before that. But again, I mean, the Pfizer vaccine specifically also has another hurdle on top of that because it requires dry ice and these super cold refrigeration temperatures. But that's not to take away from this moment. It's just truly extraordinary. This is really the beginning of the end. Knock on wood.
Meanwhile, the FDA is expected to release a bunch of data on that Pfizer vaccine today. It's ahead of a meeting later this week that could end with the vaccine's approval, and Americans could start getting shots as soon as this weekend. One thing, Carlo, we were talking about why are they ahead of the game, right? Why have they approved this vaccine already? One of the differences that I've learned between the way that they do it and we do it in terms of approval of medicines and stuff, is they do kind of this rolling approval where their
Yeah.
officials have already, they started to look at the data weeks ago, kind of as it started to come in. And here in the US, basically Pfizer is handing like a 10,000 page book, with information
Right.
to the FDA as soon as they were done with their trial. So they basically, in the UK, just got this major head start. Perhaps it's, I don't know. I can't argue the merits of doing it either way, but it seems like that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, I mean, look, Jill. Yesterday, I said that I worried that the if anybody was going to mess this up, it was going to be the federal government. Sure enough, there's reporting this morning in the New York Times and elsewhere that the White House actually passed on the chance to lock down more than the initial 100 million doses they reserved from Pfizer, and the company ended up selling those doses to other governments as per its contractual obligations, meaning that we sort of gave away our place in line for more than these 100 million this first batch of 100 million doses. That's obviously still a lot, and maybe there will be more. And maybe we still don't know about Moderna and AstraZeneca. There may be other vaccines coming, but I read that story and I was just like, of course we did, right? Classic.
So is that what's behind so today the president's expected to sign this executive order called America First. It's basically saying, that the vaccines would go to Americans first. The vaccines made in this country go to Americans first before they go to other countries. Is that what's behind it? Was it like the goof on the Pfizer vaccine, or was this just already planned? Do you know any of the backstory here?
No, I think that it was. I think that it's separate because this was like a multinational effort. So I think Pfizer sort of gave us back a while back. They gave us sort of like a, right of first refusal on more than the 100 million, and for whatever
Right.
reason, we passed on that. And now now those doses don't exist. They've been scooped up by other countries that also need it. So it's just
Okay.
annoying.
All right. Well, I mean, look. Hopefully they'll get out that first 100 million, and then you'll have the Moderna vaccine and Astra. There's other
Yeah.
candidates in the pipeline as well. So hopefully, in terms of real life consequences, it won't be horrible.
Right.
President-elect Biden, by the way, has chosen the recently retired General Lloyd Austin to be the Secretary of Defense, according to multiple outlets. If confirmed by the Senate, he would become the first black person to run the Pentagon. He was in charge of the Iraq troop drawdown during the Obama administration and is widely respected in military circles. But he's also not a civilian. Before President Trump chose General Jim Mattis as his first Secretary of Defense, there was this longstanding tradition of civilian control of the armed forces.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's what makes him a terrible choice, in my opinion. Lloyd Austin. I mean, first of all, I think the guy he seems like a smart, military person and commander, but just because President Trump broke the protocol, doesn't mean that Joe Biden should too. Mattis, I think, when Jim Mattis was selected, he was basically given a pass by sort of like the media and the political establishment because he was one of Trump's few sane cabinet choices. Everybody liked him and thought that he was sort of like one of the adults in the room, as they used to say. But it still broke this norm. And, Joe Biden has been out there saying that he's all about restoring these norms. So I don't really know what he's doing here. But again, Austin does have sterling credentials. He seems like a brilliant military commander. But this job is supposed to go to a civilian for a reason that goes all the way back to George Washington. It's just a very slippery slope when the government and the military are very close and intermingled. So we'll see. It's possible that he doesn't get confirmed. I think there's probably going to be a little bit of a civil war within the Democratic Party over this pick, for the reason I just laid out.
Okay, we want to get on the record with this kind of crazy story out of India. Stop me if you've heard this before. More than 300 people currently hospitalized with an unknown illness in southeastern India. Doctors are ruling out COVID-19. There's also no evidence of any viral infection in patients, one of whom has died. The symptoms appear to be seizures, nausea, and a loss of consciousness.
So Indian officials are testing the water samples for contamination after they noticed that all of the patients in the hospital appear to have drank from the same source. So if I had to bet, I'm just going to say it's probably a bacterial infection. no cause for alarm out there. I don't want to scare people that think this is the next coronavirus, but something to monitor, especially if it happens in a very dense country like India. Obviously, there could be it could continue to spread, but just something we'll keep on the record.
I'm not mentally or emotionally prepared to handle another
No,
pandemic in the year 2020 or 2021. I want that on
I
the
have to say
record.
though, I would say that it's not possible. But then again, is there any? Wouldn't it sort of be the way this year would end? Would be like a completely new virus coming out of nowhere?
Of course.
I'm not even gonna say it. I'll take it back.
Well, the beauty of this, I'm going to bring this, the beauty of the mRNA technology is that at least it's this new way to create vaccines and fight, quickly come up with formulas that could
Right.
potentially create a vaccine. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll have learned a lot from this year in terms of science and how to do things right. By the way,
Your
an end
lips.
of an era, the annual Ikea catalog being discontinued after 70 years. The Swedish home retailer says the time has come for the printed version of the catalog to go as more shoppers browse and shop online. Ikea's e-commerce sales have gone through the roof this year, up nearly 50%, similar to many furniture and home goods stores.
Little fun fact for you on this that I learned yesterday. According to a documentary that the BBC did a while back, the IKEA catalog was at one time the largest publication on Earth, with more copies printed than either the Bible or the Quran. Isn't that wild?
What?
Um,
That's
yeah,
nuts.
isn't that nuts? But yeah, an end of an era, Jill. IKEA. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Somebody who tweeted at me because I did this hit on Cheddar last night. Um, I The problem with IKEA is you can't move the furniture, right? Like if you buy something from IKEA and put it together, like it's not moving with you. It's not built for that. It has to basically die when your apartment when the lease is up. So that's my only IKEA gripe.
I agree, but I don't agree. And the funny thing is, so when I first moved in with my husband, he had this wide range of furniture. So he had either like really high end furniture or really
Mhm.
low end furniture, like if you consider the IKEA furniture lower end. And I couldn't tell the difference. So I just sort of assumed that everything was really nice. And I'd be like, ooh, where did you get this dresser? And he's like, IKEA, relax. And by the way, it survived 3 moves. We still have it.
Oh
It's actually
wow,
in
really?
a room here, and we are selling our bedroom furniture because we bought this house furnished. And that IKEA dresser is going into our bedroom again. I don't know how old it is, probably 10 years, but it has survived at least 3 moves.
Okay, you know what? I just realized that it's probably me because every time I move, I hire my brother's like stoner friends to help us move instead of real movers because it's cheap, and they always break stuff. But maybe it's their fault.
Exactly. Blame them. I mean, look, I obviously it's you get what you pay for, right? Breakdancing, by the way, coming to the Olympics in 2024. The International Olympic Committee has added breakdancing as an official medal event starting with the Paris Summer Games. This is part of a strategy by the International Olympic Committee to lure in younger audiences. What do you
Part
think,
of that.
Carlo?
I mean, first of all, I mean, I guess is it any crazier than like curling, right? I mean, there's already like pretty
I have this
ridiculous.
coffee. I have coffee in in my mouth that I was just about to spit out. No, probably not. Remember the
They're also
curling craze after the last
yeah.
Olympics?
Was that I feel like every time there's a Winter Olympics, people are like, "Man, this curling stuff is pretty wild," and then no one thinks about it again for 4 years. They're also adding skateboarding, surfing, and sports climbing, whatever that is. They're adding those to the Tokyo Games. So breakdancing will be in Paris in 2024. The skateboarding, surfing, and sport climbing will be in Tokyo, which is happening next year. Remember, of course, those games were supposed to have happened this past summer, and they had to get delayed because of the coronavirus. I still think there's maybe a little bit of a chance they don't happen at all, but they're on the schedule for next summer in Tokyo.
I think that they're going to happen. I think will the U.S. be allowed there? I think that's a question that remains
Fair
up
point.
for
Yeah,
that up for debate. But I think that in some capacity it will happen because other
sure.
countries have gotten this crisis under control already.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan has sold his entire songwriting catalog to Universal Music for a reported price of more than $300 million. It's thought to be the biggest deal ever for the music rights of a single artist. The Dylan catalog, probably the most prized in rock and roll after the Beatles, comprises about 600 songs from Times They Are Changin' to Blowin' in the Wind to some of his newer stuff.
Yeah, his newer stuff, which is just straight up not good. Sorry, and I love Bob Dylan. But yeah, so this deal means that Dylan won't control who licenses his music. Universal will control it. Though it doesn't really matter, right? Because Dylan, of course, is notorious for not really passing up many of those opportunities to license his music as it is. The guy is an absolute genius, but he's also just, let's be honest, he's a huge sellout, right? He's been doing Cadillac commercials, Victoria's Secret commercials, Apple commercials. He's like the De Niro of rock and roll, I guess. But hey, he's getting paid.
What does that mean? Does Robert, I don't know if this is a stupid question, but why Robert De Niro is on a lot of commercials?
No, it's not that. I guess it's not a good comparison. But it's like De Niro was an absolute genius actor, probably one of the greatest actors of his generation, but has been in just horrible movies for like the past 20 years, almost without exception. I just feel like when you have somebody like that who's just like a generational savant in their field, whether it's like a Dylan or a De Niro, and then they just mess up their legacy in like their later years by either selling out to brands, or in De Niro's case, just like not ever turning down any script. I just feel like that messes up their legacy. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a purist.
I think Bad Grandpa, that movie, is highly underrated with De Niro. Have you seen it?
Oh, really? I have not seen it.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
I mean, I like Meet the Parents.
It's a favorite. And Meet the Parents is one of my favorite movies ever.
All right, well, maybe I'm just being hard on him, but it just seems like he's I don't know. Every time I look on the Apple TV, it's like there's some new De Niro movie that's like straight to VOD, and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You're Robert De Niro. Just like take a pass.
By the way, know what story I want to talk about tomorrow? Warner, we talked about this. Warner taking all their films that were supposed to come out in 2021 and doing this dual thing where they're going to do theaters and streaming. Apparently, they're getting a ton of backlash from movie producers who are like, we didn't sign up for this.
That's a good idea. Let's do that story tomorrow. I saw Chris Nolan came out today and bashed them. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Okay, making a note.
All right, and finally, how is this for an out of office? Hawaii's tourism board offering free round-trip tickets to Oahu for out-of-staters working remotely. The first round of promotion goes until December 15th. Applicants just have to prove that they're working from home. They must move within a month, and they have to stay in the state for at least 30 consecutive days. The initiative is a way to nurture talented professionals and help build a resilient economy, according to Hawaii's tourism office. Kind of
Hawaii,
smart, I think.
It is. It's very smart. I believe that Hawaii is the only state right now on the COVID exit strategy map that isn't dark red in terms of just where the uncontrolled spread of the coronavirus is happening. I actually have a trip booked to Hawaii in February to visit my best friend from college that I made a long time ago. I think the chances of that happening are probably, zero? I mean, I don't know, maybe 5%. Luckily, though, the airlines and the hotels are all doing refunds. They're not hassling you, so that's just a little. If you have a trip booked and you're not going to be able to go, you shouldn't have a hard time getting your money back.
Well, look, this is one of these longer-term trends, though. When we talk about just the travel industry, most experts have said that even post-pandemic, business travel is going to be cut dramatically, right? Because we've realized that you don't need to necessarily bring everyone in the same room. You could do a Zoom meeting and save on airfare and hotels and whatnot. Totally. So perhaps the best chance for the travel economy is the idea that you can work from anywhere. So, hey, if you're going to work from home anyway, maybe you go to Hawaii and it's not a vacation, or it's half vacation, half work, and you stay for 30 days.
I got to say, Jill, if I were single right now,
I think it's a pretty good idea.
If I were single right now, I would do that. I would be booking a trip to like Bermuda for the month, right? Why not? I mean, it beats being here. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are probably going to do that. If you don't have to commute every day, go where the weather's nice or go where you have family or something. I totally get it.
I have friends who moved actually as a family with their kids to Costa Rica for the year because they're just like,
Really? Ooh,
you can't
that's a
see anybody anyway. Let's get some nice weather. We've always wanted to live abroad. This is the
that's a
year.
baller move. I appreciate that. You know what? If I could do one thing over, I would have gotten I would have gotten braces this year.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, this year.
Yeah. I would have gotten braces like back in March because it's not like I really see anybody, and I kind of need them on my bottom teeth. Anyway, this is a conversation for we can take this offline. But I was just thinking it would have been smart to get them back in March when you're not really going to be seeing anybody in public for a while. Anyway,
I was actually thinking that this would have been a good year if you played your cards right to get pregnant at some point during the pandemic. Besides the fact that it's a little scary, but if you can quarantine yourself, and besides for the doctor's appointments, it's like you don't need to get maternity
yeah,
clothes. You don't need to, you're not
right,
missing parties that you can't have a glass of alcohol. It's
yeah.
not the worst year to be pregnant, even though the birth rate is going to be, is dramatically going down because of the pandemic. Another great
Oh, is that
story
true?
that we should definitely
That is
talk
a good
about.
story. All right, I
Okay,
got
we
my
went on
marching orders tomorrow.
we kind
Sorry
of
about
went
that,
on a
folks.
tangent here.
That's okay.
Carlo and the braces. Interesting, interesting. All right, that's what you need to know for Tuesday, December 8th.
Thanks, everyone.